Hey, I'm Samantha Hartley, and this is the Profitable Joyful Consulting Podcast. This season, we are talking about consulting success metrics. And I really don't think there's anything more important in the success metrics, not even profitability or joy, than that you are healthy. You've got to take care of yourself and be healthy. That's the way we can bring ourselves to our business and function in the business. And specifically, I'm inspired to talk about this today because I've got a few clients who are struggling in this area. They are experiencing health challenges. And sometimes when you need to have time away from the business, it's urgent and you've got to be able to leave it. Very often, especially with consultants, I have talked about the idea that you are the business. You are the brand. The business is you. And yet we need to cultivate something different, which is that the business can function without you. We have to be able to build something that can function without you for only 2 weeks. So you can go away on vacation, for 3 months, so you can take a sabbatical, or for longer. So let's think about what are ways that you can plan for any kind of impending absence. Back when I was in corporate, people were dropping like flies from health issues, from stress-related health things, everything from heart and blood pressure to digestive things, and just plain mental health issues. And I was one of those who just took off and said, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not myself. I don't feel well and I can't function in this kind of environment. And so we left. More recently, what we see from COVID is that unexpectedly people get sick and they need to take time away to take care of themselves. If that's a surprise to us, then we're going to have trouble in our business. So we need to have measures in place that we can be away from the business. As consultants, you are the business and the business is you. And yet we need to build a business that can function without us. And how do we do that? So that's what I'm going to talk about today. Like, how do you put in place measures that will enable you to leave the business for a little while? And how do we prevent and stop ourselves from creating illness within ourselves? I think a lot about my Australian colleagues and who would just make fun of us incessantly for never taking our vacations. Like, Americans are classically known as overworkers. So it's in our culture. It's really hard for us to step away from the desk and stop doing our work. And we do it to our detriment. And this constant work has made us as a culture unwell. So I think a lot of our obesity is due to coping mechanisms from overwork, being sedentary as a culture. All of these things that happen when you sit at your desk too long and don't go outside, step up and do other things. This is an issue that's important to me because I've had my own health challenges and I have also had my own issues with overwork. And I'm trying to bring to my clients and to you different ways of thinking about things so that we don't continue these unhealthy behaviors. So I think a lot of this can be tied back to overwork. My client Ava, who is not well right now, has got a compulsive habit of overwork. If I look at why I think we overwork, well, obviously the first reason is, as I mentioned, we have a culture that kind of glorifies overwork, not kind of, it literally. Our culture glorifies overwork. If you look at things that Elon Musk says, it's about you have to be at your desk and putting in a 40, 60, 80-hour week. There's just this glorification of the amount of time you work, and that causes us to work too much. A lot of us have addictive behaviors, which means that I define addiction as what you can't stop doing, things that are hard for you to stop doing. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs have this kind of personality type where once we're immersed in something, we want to go, 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 and it's hard for us to stop. So switching channels from work to rest, even if all of those things are enjoyable, can be hard for us. It's definitely hard for me. I have to put in place a lot of measures that stop me from working. And I've done shows about that, about ending your workday, creating breaks in your day and things about like that. So I think it's important for us to look at why we overwork, why we do things in the business that make us sick. So there's just a habit for a lot of people, whether it's an addiction or not, there is a habit of working too much. Another thing can be that we equate the amount of time that we work with the amount of money we make. And I can tell you that that is not the case. The more you work smart, the more you're going to get the success that you're looking for. And so the effort isn't always the only way to get that. Sometimes you have to work outside your comfort zone. You have to do things that are hard for you, but putting in, 20-hour days is not a sustainable way to get to where you want to be. And it doesn't have to happen. I've worked with many businesses who did not have to put in such an unhealthy amount of effort in order to get a successful business. I think sometimes people stay at work for mysterious reasons. There was a guy that we worked with at corporate, and he was always the last guy out of the office. And while we thought maybe he wanted to seem the most dedicated or something like that, we also heard that he had twin boys at home who were at a difficult age, and he didn't really want to go home and be with them. So maybe he preferred being in the office to child rearing responsibilities, or, maybe he was just really, really dedicated. But in your case, I want you to think about, why is it hard for me to stop working? What's the thing that keeps me working even when I'm tired? And that's really the important thing to look for. When you're pushing across your own boundary of exhaustion, like I've done enough, I'm doing too much. I talk with people all the time who will say, I stayed too late. And then by the time I was working, I realized I'm not in good brain time. And then I'm actually not even effective anymore. I'm just working, but it's taking me 3 times longer to do anything that I could just come in tomorrow and finish in half an hour. So I want you to think about when you're feeling compelled to work, is this really the best brain time? Is it the best time to be doing that? And is maybe rest more in your favor? So a way for you to be thinking about how you can work in your business is the CEO. You are the CEO of your business. And for a lot of us, we feel like, no, I'm the consultant. I'm the person who delivers the value. I'm the doer for my clients. If you're stuck in that model, then you're going to do too much. Then you end up doing everything in the business and playing all the roles in the business. If you can think of yourself as a CEO, and maybe with this analogy, as an orchestra conductor, you don't need to learn how to play all of the instruments. You're conducting an orchestra. So when this one comes in, you can bring in, the flute player, or you can bring in the drums. You can bring in different players in different situations. Now, sometimes that's you. But if all of the roles are you, then you're going to end up in a situation where you're overworking. I don't want you to learn how to do constant contact. I don't want you to be editing your own videos. At a certain point, you have to give somebody else jobs. So even though this is a question of a $2 million business for my client, Ava, it was very hard for her to let go of some of these roles. And she had beliefs that were I'm really the best person to do this particular job. And in the end, that's a belief that has it's pushed her up against the edge of a healthcare crisis. So learning to be the orchestra conductor instead of feeling compelled to play all of the instruments in the orchestra is going to be a healthy mindset for you to begin to build a business that is bigger than just you. You don't have to have 50 employees. You can have a few colleagues who come in and who are subcontractors for you. You can have an administrative assistant who does heinous tasks that you don't care to learn. And you can have support systems around you who can help you. But if you are the single person who has to do every single thing in your business, then a lot of times you're going to end up exhausted. I can tell you there are rare exceptions to this. I do know some people who are yes, they do everything from getting clients to invoicing to doing the service. I'm just going to guess that's not you. It doesn't have to be a pain in the neck to have team. You can have wonderful team members who are responsible, just like we all choose to have perfect clients. So I offer that is a possibility for you, and for you to begin to look for that, because you have to you have to hire the flute player. You have to hire the people who play the instruments that you don't want to play, whether I mean literally delivery or I mean video editor and, customer service person. So think about yourself more as the conductor of the orchestra than as the person who plays literally every single instrument. Okay. And that's going to begin to shift the way you think about your business. Now I want to go to Ava. She's now got a crisis and has to be out of the office in ASAP. And if you, heaven forbid, were struck down with one of these acute illnesses, COVID or something like that, or if you found out, hey, listen, you've developed a chronic illness because you've constantly been pushing off things that you could be doing. And I know there are other reasons people end up with chronic illnesses or acute illnesses. I'm saying through overwork. something that could be avoided by you taking different action. If you can take different action now, then you don't have to push yourself to where you have a chronic illness. So you can plan your business differently. You've got to delegate. You have to delegate things to people on your team. So my client Ava was struggling with letting go of tasks that she felt she had to be the only one to do. We basically put in place a plan with job descriptions. So do you have job descriptions and roles and functional areas in your business so that you can take things off of your plate and give them to someone else? You can do time audits to see where you're spending your time and what's being done by you that could be done by anybody else in your business. I want you to imagine, just as a thought experiment, that you're taking a 2-week vacation. And I want to applaud those of my clients who have been doing this recently. Take a 2-week vacation. This can be done by setting expectations with the people around you, including your team and your clients, so that you can actually leave and enjoy yourself and be away. You can be completely unplugged. You can leave people who are in charge in case something happens, but let's be honest, you're probably not a veterinarian or a medical doctor who are like, it's a life and death matter. For most of us, our clients might run aground if they lose some information, but they can wait 2 weeks to get it. So don't overburden yourself with extreme responsibility such that you can't go away for 2 weeks. If it's hard for you to do that, have somebody else who can be left behind and in charge. I like to have a backup for everyone on my team, including me. So if you were away for 2 weeks, who would be your backup? All of my team members are allowed to take vacation time because there's a backup for that person. So if my project manager is away, there's somebody who's a backup for her. If one of my content writers is away, there's someone who's a backup for her. And then here's the really good thing. Do you know who is never the backup for anyone on my team? Me. It means that if the flute player is sick, there's another flute player who comes in. I don't play the flute. I don't choose to learn the flute. You are never the backup for anybody on your team if you play your cards right. You should set up a business that you can go away from. Now, a funner thought experiment, I think, is what if you took a 3-month sabbatical? 3 months. And you went hiking in the Australian outback or something. Imagine you were away for 3 months. What would need to happen in your business for that to work? This kind of a thought experiment can help you to think of, and I really, really want you to play this through. What roles do you need to have in place? What would need to be going on? How much would you have to sell in advance? How can your billing continue? Who would be doing delivery to your clients? What would that really require? And if you didn't begin to dream during the COVID days of having a sabbatical, then you're one of the few people I know who didn't. A lot of people are starting to think about, what if I took an extended break away from my business? Could I really do that? Yes, you can really do it. And don't force yourself to work so that you end up, being forced out by a medical condition. Awareness is a funny thing. Very often, once we're aware that something could be a problem, if we don't take action on it, then we end up with a crisis situation. So because we've been talking about this, I really want you to bring to your awareness where in your work environment right now, things are out of whack and things need to be addressed, whether that's you overworking or that there's no backup for a key team member or that your clients are overly reliant on you. When I worked with my client on this, there were all of these reasons that she had to work a ridiculous schedule. And yet, in 45 minutes, we were able to delegate all of that stuff over to people on her team. Now, was that hard for her because she feels like she needs to be the one to do those tasks? Well, ideally, sure. But can other people do those tasks? First of all, I think, yes, they can. And second of all, it's possible that some people will be able to do things even better than she was doing them, which we'd never have known because they've never been given the opportunity. Let your team, let your supporters surprise and delight you by being able to do things in your absence. Let your clients surprise and delight you by being resilient and self-sufficient. Sure, they need you, and there's a bunch of stuff that you can delegate to them to do in your absence that they can actually do and impress you with having done when you get back. So bring this into awareness and then take action on it. Awareness without action tends to turn into, just for me, I'm just speaking for myself, kind of punishment from the universe because I didn't take action on anything I knew I needed to do. So I'm not wishing that on you. I'm just saying, please bring into your awareness and then take action accordingly. The last thing I want to talk about is there are like real earth rules, standard things that we can do if we are going to plan for things that might happen. And disability insurance is a good example of that. Last fall, my husband and I decided we had to get serious about certain things like life insurance and long-term health care and disability insurance and all of these kinds of, grown-up things that we've been avoiding for a really long time. And if you take action on this right now, like you can put in place things like disability insurance so that if something ever were to happen to you, heaven forbid, there's coverage for that. Like, let's think about that, especially if you are the sole kind of leader and talent and breadwinner in your business. That's a thing that you can do. You can also look into things like getting a line of credit so that there's a financial cushion in case something were to happen and you wouldn't have money coming in for a few months. So we can plan ahead and think about these things. And I want to do it from a place not of last minute panic, not of last minute need, like my client Ava. I want you to be able to anticipate and look forward and say, okay, I do actually want to take maybe a 1 month sabbatical. 3 months maybe seem too far-fetched right now, but what if I were away for a month? What would need to happen in order for me to do that? Trust me, that is going to be a really beneficial thought exercise for you to do. And you might even take a 1 month vacation. It's totally not crazy. I hope the ideas that we've talked about today have helped you to plan how to be responsible, also how to take better care of yourself. Don't keep working like that. There's just no reason for any of us to be driving ourselves as if we were back at corporate. It doesn't help you. It's not sustainable, and it's not profitable and joyful. So with that, I want to thank you for listening, and I wish you a profitable and joyful consulting business. Thanks for watching. I'd appreciate if you'd like this episode, and if you enjoyed the show, why not subscribe? Be sure to click the bell to get notified when new episodes drop.